Hello, everyone, and welcome to Classical Revolution here on IDAGIO. My name is Rachel Fenlon, and this is my weekly show. Today, I'm joined by tenor Simon Bode, an international singer who's performing on the opera stage, the chamber music stages, and concert stages of the world, as well as a wonderful recording artist. Some of Simon's career highlights include solo engagements with the Salzburger Festspiele, Bad Kissingen Sommerfestival, the Heidelberg Frühlingsfestival. His regular collaborators are Igor Levitt and Graham Johnson, and he performs recitals regularly at Wigmore Hall, Pierre Boulez Saal, Rheingau Music Festival, as well as guests with the LA Philharmonic and the Elbphilharmonie. Simon received the Opernwelt Young Opera Singer of the World Award. And as an opera singer, he performs title roles with the National Opera Oslo, the National Opera de Bordeaux, Bregenz Festival, Frankfurt Opera, and the Hanover State Opera, to name a few. I'm really thrilled to have him. Please welcome Simon Bode. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Rachel. This is my first live stream thing. Can you imagine?
No.
Yeah, never done this.
How did you avoid this for 7 months?
I just never reply to emails.
It's so nice to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. So let's start off by maybe you can just tell us your introduction, a little bit of your background, your introduction to music, and whether there are any specific kind of musical moments that really led you on the path that you're on now.
Well, I started playing the piano and the violin due to, I don't know, I want to say my Korean mother. I'm half German, half Korean, but that's not the total truth. It was just part of education to start an instrument, and I started with the violin very early when I was 3.5 years old, and barely could. I don't know, what can you do with 3.5 years old? Not much. But I started playing the violin and then later the piano, so that was just part of it. Nothing spectacular, just lessons. And I have to say, I really came to music being a big part of my life through chamber music. Or through choir and orchestra playing in school. Later, when you realize when you're 10, 11, that there's something to gain, right? So this moment when I realized, oh, this is something, there's a unification of souls and energy levels and I don't know, listening, reacting, all this stuff, that really kept me going. And then also I really love this, how you say that in English, that there is no separation between ages in a way you would, make music with your seniors or with younger people when they're talented. I really dig that. So this is how I came to actually, that music was a big part in my daily life. And then singing came through the choir in school, actually. So there was a great music teacher we had, and he founded the choir, a new founded choir. And he tried to convince me for several weeks to join. I had no idea what that was. And then I went, and then there were, nice people singing together and working on something together. And this is still, what kept me going. And he was actually the first one also to tell me, maybe leave the violin and focus on the singing. So this was all in my school upbringing, actually. Yeah. So that's why I'm also still very interested in, the instrumental repertoire, and piano became a big part also with competitions later on. Opera, I have to say, I remember two moments.
Okay.
Both of them in a car. One was because I had my violin lessons in the center of Hamburg, and after school, then my mom would bring me there with a car, and there was always this traffic jam because of the rush hour, and sometimes we were standing on that corner for half an hour or something. I hated it, but we had this. It was the time of the Discman, and someone or myself, I don't know, I had a full recording of Così fan tutte with Barenboim, Gigi Rabatuli and Coach Streit. Back then I didn't know the names, I just had the CD. And they had big tracks. So the finale was like 20 minutes tracks, the finale one. And you never listen to it. Of course you don't listen to it at your home when you have no idea what that is and you don't know the language. But then in that desperate moment of traffic jam and being stuck and hungry, and look, I hated violin lessons too. I just kept, it kept running.
Yeah.
And then the moment when, you know, the ladies come in and they start screaming and singing together, and this whole thing unravels and it evolves, that just kept me going. And then I didn't want the traffic jam to end, because, you know, always repeat, not even understanding what it was about, but just the pure energy and joy of the music and how they performed it was breathtaking. I still remember that moment.
Wow. And what was the second moment?
Oh, the second one is the same thing with Zauberflöte Finale on a long drive through Denmark. I don't even know how I came across in that age to all this opera recording, because not my parents didn't give them. So there must be some, I don't know, friends who thought that might be something. So that was it. And then one other moment was in Canada, actually. So I was visiting my uncle in Toronto, and it was summer break, and I just discovered opera also through an internship at the Hamburg Staatsoper, which, you know, school internship. We were students in school, and you have to find is that a practicum? I don't even know how to say that in English. You have a little 3 weeks internship in a business to understand what's going on. And I had that in the Hamburger Staatsoper, and they let you in all the rehearsals and everything. And I discovered Verdi back at the time. There was Un ballo in maschera, which I heard, of course, have never heard before. But if you're sitting in every rehearsal from the start, from the orchestra rehearsal, and then the conductor, who I remember the name is also Massimo Zanetti, amazing conductor, still around in the big houses. And he asked me to sit down with him for 5 hours, because there was a reduction of the score, and then you had to put it, you know, you copy it and then glue it down for them so they can easily, you know, manage. And I did that. And when I was 16, I guess, so I came across opera, and then I was going to Canada for the summer to visit my uncles back then, and there was before COC was open. They didn't even have a building yet.
Oh wow!
So it must have, well, when I was 16, so it's almost 20 years ago. So no opera, and it was the Verdi centennial. So there was all those Verdi CDs, and my uncle was so kind to buy them for me. But I needed opera. I was so hooked. So he found a little something. I think it was university opera or something. It must have been because I remember him driving me onto campus and just leaving me there, because he had no interest in opera. And there were like 30, 40 people, at least three times my age. But I was sitting there, and it was Bohème with a piano. And I don't know how I would judge it today, but I just thought it was so beautiful. And then that moment of going ding 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 quando and when she comes in, that note hit me. And so afterwards I checked it out in every opera house I could, when I was back, I could get a grip of. And so this is how my love to opera started. And we were lucky in Hamburg. There was such a great group of also the teachers of all the music, you know, students knew each other, and so we got all the free tickets for the opera and the premieres. And you know what I saw before I actually turned 18, I realized now there was a big upbringing, seeing all that amazing music, and also, you know, the direction of Convicini or whatever who was around at the time, that had a great impact on me.
Amazing.
Long answer. I'm sorry, I kept just going on.
No, it's fascinating. I mean, as your friend, I've never really heard that side of it, and amazing how much of it came from school. Actually, that's
yeah. And music. So we have also this system of school and music school, which is kind of funded. So your parents don't have to pay a full price of private lesson, but you get a private lesson. So this was all a good how you say, mishmash of, if you wanted it, then you could get it.
Then you could get it. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Very special. It's a good segue. What's really unique about what you do, something I admire so much, is that you really truly are at home in opera and in Lied, and also in the concert, you know, in your Matthew Passions and your St. John Passions. I would love to hear you talk a little bit about opera and lead and where the two connect for you and where you feel like they diverge. Um, yeah, let's start there. Just
I mean, for me, the way I see this, opera and lead are just two different outcomes of, I don't know, humankind or society. What they made of the fact that they wanted to express them through song and through the human voice. So you have this one side of it where maybe there's, I mean, the one with the most beautiful voice telling the story in a gathering, very rural, I think of it, right? So the folk song thing, that is where I see the lead evolve, or the idea of it. Of course, the Kunstlied is way more sophisticated, but this is the root. The other side is opera. I mean, it was always meant for big celebration. It was invented to show off power and to show off greatness and to show off the human genius and creativity. So it always was a bigger machinery. But yeah. I think the root is the same. It's the love for expressing yourself through human voice. And I think there lies truth in both of it. And both of those characteristics still travel until nowadays, I have to say. I mean, I love both. I love being part of this big machinery where you just have to, you have to function. I mean, you have to see also what your character is. And I'm a control freak, so I like being in control. No. And that is easier in lead, of course, and in concert, especially because, I mean, there's less where you just have to be there in a certain amount of time. I mean, quite literally, you have to be out of makeup and on stage and on a certain bar, and then to find some can amazingly find the freedom in that. So they, especially going into a role, they find some kind of connection in themselves that frees them. I, for myself, have found that sometimes I'm stressed by that especially when you don't do a new production. So there are lots of Wiederaufnahmen, of course, and that's good for learning and everything, but then you have to, sometimes without even a rehearsal on stage or a rehearsal with the orchestra, you have to deliver, which is also fun part of this profession. But actually, I love the digging, and I love also being spontaneous in a way that being able to be spontaneous in a way that won't destroy the whole thing, but just people can easily react. Even if I'm singing Matthew's Passion with the Evangelist, I mean, that's the core to it, to tell a story in the moment, and what brings everything that comes in the moment, and the small banda or the pianist, they just react. I mean, or they give you an impulse and you take it. And that is also true for opera, but of course it only comes so far with opera.
Yeah. Do you vocally approach the two things in a similar way?
Everything became easier when I stopped doing that.
Okay, so tell me more.
Your instrument is your instrument, and then the piece, the work, the aria, the whatever, draws from it what it has to draw. But it's always a musical choice, not a technical choice. It can't be a technical choice.
Can you talk a little bit about that, the musical choice versus technical choice?
Maybe let's put it this way. So in lead, where I felt I can be my own center and to take the time I need. No, I don't mean the time in terms of tempo. I mean the time. I mean, just it's a psychological thing, right? That this part that makes me feel free, there's truth in it, also technically. And just because, I mean, let's take this. So you have a recitativo, or you have a big scene, ensemble scene, and then you go for it, and you're a little bit out of breath or something, and then your aria comes up. Of course they wait for you if they're good, but still the moment arrives and you have to be in that moment, and you compensate. If you don't understand what that does with you, if you let this situation draw you out of your center and out of your, also both mind and body, then you compensate in thinking, oh God, am I loud enough? Or is this my tempo? So you manipulate your voice, and that's always bad. So what I'm trying to say is, good technique comes always from the same place and always from the core of your voice, what your voice is. And if your voice isn't Wagner, then you shouldn't sing Wagner, right? If Wagner singing stresses you out because you're not a Wagner singer, then don't sing it. So that's what I would say. And a good technique also should enable you to give to lead what it needs in terms of, being fluent on the air, having thousands of colors and being able to, take them in the moment. In opera, sometimes you wouldn't use them because it's a different, different musical line.
Yeah.
But you use another color, so to say. But you have, it has to be all from the same drawer. It has to come from the same drawer, and you choose something different. So that's why I'm saying to say it's a different technical approach would be wrong. Also, some opera singers have the same. Let's say opera singers who have the career mainly in opera have the same problem. They're afraid of Lieder because they say, how would I ever sing 70 minutes? In Müllerin, for example, or Winterreise without a break. In opera, it's a crazy scene, but it's over after half an hour, or after 10 minutes an hour, or whatever. And then I can have a drink and a break or something. So they're freaked out by that simple. It's a technical. It's not even. They could, of course, they could.
Yeah.
But they feel intimidated by that.
Yep. It's a different
amazing
mindset.
Singers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's really, I love what you say about that the instrument draws what it needs from you in both.
Should. That's I want that to happen.
That's the ultimate, but I've never quite heard that articulated before, and I love that really. Because then of course, then I understand it's coming also. Then of course the music is dictating those choices in a way.
Yeah, to say something a little more out there, it has become problematic, I think, that we specialize in what we sing before we actually develop the voice, because maybe it's the one thing we want to do. So we specialize in a way that is unhealthy for singing. Yes, would I sing with less vibrato in a Baroque aria because someone demands it from me? Do I agree? Blah, blah. That's another topic. But do I have to be able to do that if someone demands it from me musically? Yes. Can that be how I put my voice in general? No. It's a musical choice. It's always a musical choice, not a choice how my instrument is. It's not a different instrument. It's not a. So yes, you play Baroque bow, but it's still the same violin, built at the same time. People forget that the violins, the Vienna Philharmonic, if they have a good instrument play, are made in the same time. The what we call alte Musik. It's the same instrument, different bow, different way. Yes, of course, but a different way of articulation, everything. But that's a musical choice, I have to say, not a technical per se. Or at least you have to be able to do both.
Yep. So something that you have coming up next is you're performing the two big Schubert cycles within 2 weeks or 3 weeks of each other.
After not performing for 6 months.
Yes. So, yeah. Given this is your specialty, this is one of the great things you do. I thought it would be really cool to hear you talk about interpretation. I'm curious what your process is to finalizing an interpretation of such a cycle. So we could take either of them.
Well, interesting that you use the word finalize, because what I've found now, especially the last weeks, going back to something I have performed many times, but not for a long time, I find quite the different side of it. I always start as if I'm starting from the beginning. I always try to find something new I haven't found yet, because perceptions and experiences change. So I see in my score, I'm also a big fan of writing something down, and I see, okay, Javier, you thought this phrase must end in distress on this word or note, and in this tempo, and then I put it on and say, what did I don't even remember what I thought back then, but I, of course, in that moment thought this is the absolute truth. We will never do it, so I always start from the beginning. Also technically, because if you're honest with yourself, especially under stress, if you have an important recital or anything, somehow you use it. Well, you have a view of what your technique is and what your voice is, but there's always a little grip that works best in those days, in those weeks, in this night. So you manipulate in terms of the thing, okay, this trick is the truth, but it was only a trick and it helped you. And it was, it had its right in that moment, but not half a year later, not, not after your body changed, your perception changed, the world changed.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah,
so
really.
you have to take that in account. And if you ignore it, you will always run into a wall or something where you thought, so you think that worked once. Why doesn't it work? And it has to work now. And in that moment, you're tense already in many, many regards. Technically, your body, your mind, and everything. So I really try to break it up again, which is time consuming and very energy consuming, and you can't always do this. So this is the one thing I would say the crisis brings in a positive manner, which you maybe should take, try to take with you, is if you have the time, take the time. And if you don't have the time, maybe you should make it happen. I don't know. We all have to make money, of course, but so I'm always trying to approach something with the same principles, yes, with the same ethics, yes, with the same goals, maybe, yes. But there's many, many different pathways to get there.
Yeah. And what you describe, it requires that you're incredibly open. Like open in that you're open to this process and also open to all of your experiences. And I have to say, as a performer myself, that to sit with a score and say, I'm going to look at it from anew again, it's a very humbling thing, or it's a very kind of scary, risky thing in a way.
Risky thing, and the great pieces, but surprise you always, all the time. So something I was always stumbling, some very fast text, and then it's different strophen, so it always comes through. And then I looked at the part where I was always in my head also, if I just repeat the text, because this is what I do first, repeat the text in my head and then talk it without even the score and the rhythm and everything. And then I looked at it, and there was just a tiny mistake. You can't even say mistakes, because in modern German you would pronounce the word like that, or put it grammatically like that, and it is not. so that was interesting for me, that you find those tiny details that in the end make a difference.
Yes, yeah, it's wonderful. One more question on interpretation, especially with song.
Sorry, I coughed. I didn't.
Oh, one more another question for you regarding interpretation in such song cycles is, what do you feel your role is within that? As in, what do you feel you have to express, or what do you feel you're looking to express in such a cycle like Winterreise?
Again, that might change in 20 years. I don't know, but now, me being the same age when Schubert died, not maybe the same age this young, maybe a little older, but the same age, the protagonist is in the situation he is in. I can't say I'm impersonate, but impersonate, is that a word? I can't say I impersonate, but I mean what I'm singing. It's not that I'm not showing, I'm not talking about a picture and see, look at this beautiful, how the painted just that and that. That wouldn't be, I don't think that would be right at all in the case of those two cycles. Because then we can listen to the CD anyway.
Exactly.
There's no need to perform them than live. I'm not saying that. Also that's so in that moment, I'm not saying this is the truth I'm telling you. I'm just telling you the story, and I'm And this also then connects with opera, because in that moment I am Tamino. If I'm not Tamino, then it won't be authentic.
Yep. Yeah. What do you feel the role of classical music is in society today?
The role.
Something you think about.
Well,
how do you feel like how do you feel it's evolved, or how do you feel it's evolving? Is that something that's you spend time thinking about?
In a way, yes, because I think classical music, like everything where humankind once developed something that is outstanding, should be part of education, because it's part of where we as humans, as society, evolved from. It's a process, right? And we learn from the past, and also from that path. So I think, first of all, it should be part of every decent education. So our children should be able to read music and to understand music, same as they should be able to read a book and understand a book and doing math. That's the first thing. So because we have that brain evolving from wherever, given from what higher power you want to imagine, and that is what came out of it. And this is one good thing what came out of it. Many horrible things. So please let this be a part of what we want to be as a group of humans and group of people. This is the first thing. And classical music, of course, in music history and in music especially, is, I don't want to say it's superior to other music styles, but it is complex. And I think we see a decline in complexity of music in every genre, not only classical music, also pop music. Everything is a decline of complexity.
Yeah.
And that we shouldn't lose. Why should we lose wisdom and craftsmanship in something we, as a group of people with some geniuses sent from heaven or whatever, were able to come by? Yes, we could. I don't know. Where's the comparison? But yes, we could stop making cheese and
wine.
Well,
the comparison could be industry, it could be architecture, it could be technology.
Yeah. Well,
technology.
Then again, there's a big discussion also there. So what do we use that for? Or is that modern architecture? Do we really use what we have to make it better, or just to make it more profitable? Right? So classical music never was profitable, which is the beauty in it, because it was always and only for itself. Yeah, for the sense of it, a wonderful impact on whatever that was. And I think still, and I think still, and I still think the big advantage of classical music compared to other music is that it's acoustic music. It has to be acoustic music. It has to be, there will be, and has to be, as a performer and as an audience, there will be a physical, quite literally a physical reaction to it, because it's acoustical music and not music you can manipulate or just hear. Yes, you can, but that's not what I mean, right? There is this strength of a full orchestra, of a voice, just, tickling your senses. That is something unique, and this is something we never should forget, because we see in classical music also now that we say, well, if the orchestra is too loud or whatever, or if the room is shitty, or I don't know, we will put a microphone here. Or in modern classical music all the time, they don't even try. They just put a microphone on you, and then also it doesn't matter how your voice projects or not, or how you are educated. So the art form in itself is like sports. Is maybe the only remaining human, what do you say? Only the remaining, if you want to say Freizeitgestaltung. So the only fun part of being alive is sports and classical music, because you have to deliver. If you don't have that note in the night, or if you're not far, you just didn't deliver. And if you don't make that shot or that hole or whatever in sports, you didn't deliver. That's the beauty about it. You have to have a certain amount of knowledge and a certain level of how you say in English, of well, yeah, of craftsmanship, if you want so, if you want that word,
yeah,
to be able to perform it, and that's nothing. That's not something bad. That's something good.
Yeah.
Also, the stakes are high, and everyone who tries to get there, even if you don't succeed, even if you on the way say no, that's not for me, still it made something with you as a with your character and everything. And I think that is, I mean, that shouldn't be neglected in when we talk about classical music.
Yeah, exactly. And also when we talk about, kind of going back to the beginning of your point, when we talk about the human experience, right? So it's not just the cultivation of this incredibly sophisticated thing, but it's also this human act that, should be as cherished as the great athletes. And yeah, I think that's very, very interesting.
I mean, I don't even mean louder and higher and
no.
faster. That's not. I mean,
no,
of course you understand what I mean, but
yeah, of course.
I just want to stress a point that.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's you. I mean, who said that you should make things as easy as possible, but not easier. Maybe it's Einstein or something. It's always Einstein.
Yeah.
And that also, I mean, relates to what we do.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. You have to make it more approachable. If we talk about how do we make classical music approachable, also for maybe people who are not from that background, blah blah blah. That yes, of course.
Yeah.
But I do believe a person who experienced that in the right moment, that physical moment of being touched, literally touched by sound. I mean, right? That you will never forget that.
Yeah. And I think what's also why that's such a great point as well is that then it's where education and this moment meet, because it means that you can discover this art form not necessarily when you're young and you needed to have learned how to read, but you could have this experience because it's vibrational, because it's a physical experience. You can have it
even
at
later,
any point in your life. Yeah, in your 30s or 40s, or which I think is because
and
of course
you need, of course, because it's an expensive art form. You need you need maybe time, and you need also, I don't know. I don't want to say, but they always criticize that we have an audience that is 40 plus.
Yeah.
But they never criticize that 90% of the people going into Berghain are 20 minus. so I don't think. I mean, they're different. It's just. I mean, we're complex beings. I wouldn't discriminate, and I always see that. And I've seen many people also after concerts, they come and say, I haven't discovered this until my late 40s, but now this is, I mean, my new world, and will spend the rest of my life with this art form, right?
Exactly.
So what you said is true. It is possible.
Yeah, it is possible. So we
have to make it approachable, but not watering down the art form.
Yes.
Watering down how we maybe forms, how we produce it, how blah blah blah, but not the art form itself, because then what is it? Nothing.
No, well, exactly. It's something that's crumbling. And perhaps then also we have to make sure that we're in some way contributing to education.
Yeah.
Because that's the other sort of pillar of that kind of thinking.
So we have this thing in Germany, and for example, in the cities where I was at the Opera House in Hanover, or even Hamburg before, they have this thing that they brought class when they're quite young. So even in elementary school, maybe a little later, they bring them in school time to see opera, and they do it on the main stage, and they do it with all the tricks they have, and they do it with real pieces, I have to say. So not children's opera or something, which is great too, but something different. And this moment of I mean, it is overwhelming somehow, but you never forget that.
Yeah.
So
I could say the exact same thing, and it was my first opera was Wozzeck, and that's an incredibly complex piece. And I was 16, and I went crazy for it.
My first opera was Salome, and it was the longest 1.5 hours I could imagine. I was so, I mean, it's truth time now, right? I was so bored. And then I sang it later, and I mean, it's one of the best pieces ever. But back then,
Right.
another famous production. Now, you know, seeing it, it's on DVD and everything. And I was like, what the is going on? This is, I can't. No, I have to leave. But there are people sitting around.
Wow. Okay. I think it was, you know, just the sheer thing that opera is, this machine that you said earlier. That just witnessing that can be a huge moment.
We have to bring that to children whose parents are. I mean, not even. I won't say they are not interested in opera, because my parents weren't interested in opera, but they enabled. But have no idea where to even start, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that is also a political process we maybe can't be too laid back about. We have to be more active, right?
Yeah.
I mean, start with what I did is started with the handful of friends from school when we were older, who I thought, oh, they have nothing to do with music, but they might find something that's interesting. And I dragged them into the opera, and somewhere bored. I mean, not me singing, us listening. I was years away from being an opera singer, and some still go into concerts.
Yeah, and I mean, we can take that as we go. We can take that further as well, of course, going to schools and taking that responsibility, I think. But it's interesting to say the word political, because another question that I definitely wanted to ask you was this question of how political music or art can be. Where do you stand on that?
If something or someone claims to be politically, most of the time it's not. They just, say they're so political. So what I find, especially during these last months where it was all gone, people coming together every other night, switching off their phones for a certain amount of time to listen to Beethoven or whatever, being in the moment, sitting maybe next to someone they would fight in social media or regular life or whatever, and just shutting up and listen and taking in the moment and calming down, or even hating it, I don't care. That is a political moment in itself, and I think we will understand how important this political impact of music making is, because we shouldn't underestimate this effect. Bringing people together through something they love, or even just think they have to do because of demand or whatever.
Yeah.
But shutting up for several hours and switching off the phones and being in the moment, I think that's a very political thing in the real sense of the word.
Wow. Yes.
And especially in smaller cities, it also brings together, the people who actually live there and work there and maybe want to contribute. And I think so that's a different system than in the States. I know, but this is a treasure we have here in Germany, and I hope this crisis at least makes people understand what that is, and that it needs to be cherished and polished and also renewed, of course. Every generation has to be. Exactly. So because we are so fluent and going everywhere, it's very unmodern to prescribe for something except Netflix, because you don't want to you don't want to have planned out your whole year like with every week appointments or whatever. So that is a problem for opera. Is it prescribers? No, opera subscribers, right?
Subscribers.
Yeah. So for example, in Hamburg with the NDR or with the Berlin Phil, still it might be you had to inherit it, otherwise you wouldn't get a subscription. And now they want to be more flexible, and either they go blah 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 or into the concert, and we have to react to that. And also maybe that's a good thing that we So that we have this treasure, especially in this country, of, I mean, music on every corner, also classical music.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to make people understand that it's a, you know, that's that's a fluid thing too. Also, so if you don't cherish it, then it might be gone quite literally. I think the system of which I enjoyed, that there was a Zauberflöte every month, or you can spontaneously look up what is going on. I love that. I still do. But maybe nowadays people don't understand, if it's over in 4 weeks, I have to get it now. Otherwise I won't get it. And then there would come more. I think that would be more, I mean, suited for our times. This is stupid. I mean, little stupid idea, but I always thought that if they see, okay, I can see it until the rest of the season, I don't decide now if I want to go. If I have to see it within 4 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks or 2 months, then I would decide, you know, to go.
Yeah, so that structure. Also interesting, like you saying this also makes me think that's something that could also come out of this crisis now, because this, not necessarily perhaps changing the infrastructure of a season, but cherishing it, because this was the thing that was gone, and it's sort of slowly renewing, and that feeling of real gratitude just to be there and have this, what you say, political experience.
I mean, we both have been to Salzburg and saw the Così fan tutte, and this, I mean, maybe it was because they were not sitting together and had all the masks on, but it was even 5-6 minutes before it started, it was so quiet and so tense in a good way. I loved that, actually. I mean, it was like we worshipped the art form.
Exactly. But exactly, and I was reminded that I think we experienced that. I mean, this is an exception. It was Salzburg. It was a big moment, but I think we experience that and we kind of normalize it, or we forget that that's the sacred moment that happens. And it's that you, so much to think about from what you're saying. So thank you. I would probably end by asking you the question: how could music be revolutionary?
Oh, the big famous question. But maybe now it has the chance to really be revolutionary in that sense we talked about. If you think of it as a real, I mean, almost rural connection to what makes a human music, to the gateway to our soul, maybe, then maybe this is the key to reconnect to what we really, what it really is all about, right? I had this is also a little anecdote, and I'm not saying that was, for me, it was a revolutionary moment, because I understood, oh, it could actually work. I was at a wedding in Italy of a close friend, who's German, but studied at West Coast, where all the Airbnbs and Amazons and with all those guys, and they all flew to Italy, and then we had beautiful open air wedding, and they had put in a clavino, which a little box, and he wanted to sing Beethoven. Ich liebe dich so wie du mich am Abend und am Morgen. And I was like, okay, obviously smart people, also musical people, but no connection, of course, to either Beethoven or German Kunstlied or German language, and also that song. And then my wife was playing the clavino, beautifully, but the sound is the sound. And then I started singing, and the big six is just, I mean, everyone was started crying, not because I sang it very well, but just because this music is, I in that moment I had hope again, because it could, if you're open, for it, and if the situation is right emotionally, this music there is something coded in it, in its geniality,
Yes. Ooh,
that will
yeah.
always get to humans' hearts. And this is that I understood in this moment, and that gave me back hope, if you want to say so. And I think there also lies the revolutionary part. When you think of revolutionary being always also something that renews from time to time, but not destroying it in this sense, but bringing us back together to what we actually should be.
Yes. That's fantastic. I don't have anything to say, because that's just I never heard it put like that. And yeah, and that's this idea of the genealogy of music, and that it's coded in there. I think I love that. That is incredibly said. So Simon, thank you so much for making time, for sharing your thoughts.
Very welcome. Thanks for putting me out there in my first live stream.
Yes, we're really honored to be your debut back into the world, into the digital world, coming out of your,
Yeah.
And wish you all the best for October, for your concerts.
Thank you.
The stage. And for everyone who tuned in today, Simon also created a playlist for today's episode of music that's meaningful and inspiring to him. So make sure you check it out. It's full of lots of beauty. Thank you again, Simon.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Bye. Ciao.
Bye. See everyone next week.